There have been some remarkable performances over the course of NBA history. Whether it be in a playoff setting or in a regular season game, some of these performances have left us in awe and in utter disbelief to what we had witnessed. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Danko from Hoops Insight, and in today's video, we'll be looking at the top 5 single game performances in NBA history. Now, this list might cause controversy as there have been many great performances over the years, but I've based this on both the stat line and the situation in which this performance was achieved. If you guys liked the video, make sure to give it a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you never miss any videos. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Number 5. Elgin Baylor 1962 NBA Finals Game 5. Going into Game 5 of the 1962 NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers had a confident demeanor. The teams had gone back and forth, with the Lakers jumping out to a 2-1 series lead before faltering at home in Game 4. This set the scene for one of the most historic single-game performances in NBA history. Elgin Baylor went on to set an NBA playoff record by scoring 61 points in leading the Lakers to a 126-121 victory over the Celtics at the Boston Garden. And 58 years later, that record still remains for most points scored in an NBA Finals game. The acrobatic forward hit on 22 of 46 field goal attempts and 17 of 19 free throws, in breaking the record of 56 points that Philadelphia Warriors center Wilt Chamberlain had set just 3 weeks before. Baylor's hottest period was the first, when he scored 18 points and followed that up with 15 in the second quarter. This would set a playoff mark for most points in a half at 33. He would go on to score 28 points in the second half. His last 6 points took the Lakers from a 116-114 deficit into a 120-117 lead, as he would finish with 61 points and 22 rebounds. Baylor's performance was masterful. He stunned the capacity crowd at Boston Garden with an amazing array of moves against one of the league's best defenders in Tom Satch Sanders, who said, quote, "Elgin was just a machine in that game." Not only did Baylor have Sanders to contend with, but he was met in the paint by none other than Bill Russell. Commenting on the game a few years later, Baylor said, "All I remember is that we won the game. I never thought about how many points I had." This win gave the Lakers a 3-2 advantage in the series and only one win away from taking home the title. However, the Celtics, who were led by Bill Russell, would come back to win Game 6 in LA and Game 7 in Boston to capture their 4th consecutive title. A 6'5" forward with strength and agility, Baylor played 14 seasons for the Lakers in a career that began in 1958 when the franchise was still in Minneapolis. He was one of the first players to take the game off the floor up to the rim and beyond, and was renowned for his ability to change direction in midair. Baylor would go on to be an 11-time All-Star selection, a 10-time All-NBA team selection, and his number 22 would go on to be retired by the Lakers. However, he would finish his career without a championship to his name. Despite this though, he remains one of the greatest players to have ever played in the NBA, and this performance will be remembered for a very long time. Number 4. Shaquille O'Neal 2001 NBA Finals Game 2. Before Game 2 of the 2001 NBA Finals, Los Angeles Lakers head coach Phil Jackson challenged Shaquille O'Neal to man up on the defensive end of the floor. "Don't be afraid to block a shot," Jackson yelled at his 7'1", 340-pound center, who did not swat a single shot in Game 1. In a matchup which featured the last 2 MVPs of the NBA in Allen Iverson and Shaquille O'Neal, as well as a young Kobe Bryant who had just been named to the All-NBA second team for the 2nd straight year, this series was a star-studded matchup, and Game 1 proved to be just that, with the Sixers prevailing 107-101 in an overtime victory led by Allen Iverson's heroic 48-point display, which stunned the Staples Center crowd. With his defensive effort being questioned, Shaq must have taken it personally, because boy did he respond. O'Neal swatted 8 shots in his team's 98-89 Game 2 win, tying a then 24-year-old record for most blocked shots in a finals game, which Bill Walton set in 1977, and Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, and Tim Duncan all matched in their respective years. Dwight Howard eventually broke the record in Game 4 of the 2009 finals with 9 blocks. O'Neal, however, was much more than just a defensive force that night. He was a jack of all trades against the Sixers, making his stat line from Game 2 a sight to behold. 28 points on 12 for 19 shooting from the floor, 20 rebounds, 9 assists, and 8 blocks. O'Neal fell a single assist and 2 blocks shy of the unicorn of NBA statistics, the quadruple-double. Only 4 players in NBA history have recorded a quadruple-double, the last of which was 26 years ago, being David Robinson, who achieved this feat on February 17, 1994. The 3 other players in question: Nate Thurman in 1974, Alvin Robertson in 1986, and Hakeem Olajuwon in 1990. O'Neal nearly played his way into history on June 8, 2001, in what would have been the first and only quadruple-double in postseason history. The Lakers would end up defeating the Sixers in 5 games and would claim back-to-back titles, which would ultimately result in a three-peat in 2002. Shaq was named Finals MVP after averaging a whopping 33 points, 15.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists, and 3.4 blocks per game in the finals. Ultimately, once his career was all said and done, he would earn a Hall of Fame selection in 2016 after a stellar career which saw him become League MVP, a 4-time NBA champion, 3-time Finals MVP, a 15-time All-Star, a 14-time All-NBA selection, a 2-time scoring champion, and on top of this, both his number 34 and 32 jerseys would be retired by the Lakers and Heat respectively. One of the greats of the game, putting in one of the greatest all-time performances in NBA history on such a big stage. Number 3. Bill Russell, 1962 NBA Finals Game 7. As mentioned earlier in the list, the 1962 NBA Finals pitted the powerhouse franchises of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics against one another. After Elgin Baylor's heroic performance in Game 5, which saw the Lakers take a 3-2 lead in the series, Boston would go on to claim Game 6, which would set the tone for the Celtics defending home court and chasing history in an overtime Game 7. Russell, the league MVP in 1962, would log all 53 minutes on court, scoring layups and grabbing rebounds. By the time the game ended, the Boston big man's stat line looked like this: 30 points and 40 rebounds. Reading it out loud sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly how Russell played during his era. There was no holding him down. This stat line would help lead the Celtics to victory in Game 7 and to the NBA title in 1962. The legend they named the Finals MVP award after would go on to have an unmatched 11 championship rings, but it may have only been 10 if not for this close call in 1962. With 5 seconds left, Game 7 tied at 100, the Lakers' Frank Selby took an 18-foot jumper from the left side of the Boston Garden. Selby missed what could have been the championship-winning shot, with Russell grabbing the championship-saving rebound. As a lanky but athletic 6'10" big man, Russell looked like a glitch in the Matrix each time he skied high for a block or snatched down a rebound. When wayward balls bounced off the rim, they always seemed to find the hands of Russell, who always had a knack for being in the right place under the basket. He was clearly ahead of his time and was a revolutionary of the game. Russell averaged 15 points and close to 23 rebounds a game in his 13 seasons as a pro, and would finish his career as an 11-time NBA champion, a 5-time MVP, 12-time All-Star, an 11-time All-NBA selection, a 4-time NBA rebounding leader, and his number 6 jersey would be retired by the Celtics. He would go on to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1975 for his stellar career. Truly one of the greats of the game, and stepped it up when it counted the most in what is the 3rd greatest single-game performance of all time. Number 2. Kobe Bryant 2006 regular season. When Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points against the New York Knicks on March 2nd, 1962, the NBA world knew it would never see anything like it again. The fact that there were no television cameras to capture the event only added to the legend of the performance. Since that game, the 70-point margin had been crossed 6 times and just twice since 1963, but that's as far as it went. David Robinson's 71-point game in 1994 against the Clippers had fans believing that this was as high as anyone would ever reach again. That was until Kobe Bryant torched the Toronto Raptors on January 22, 2006 in one of the greatest single-game performances in NBA history. As the Lakers scored a 122-104 comeback victory at home, Bryant finished with a remarkable 81 points on a 28 of 46 shooting, including 7 of 13 from three-point range and 18 of 20 from the foul line, to go along with 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals and a block. The accomplishment stunned even Bryant himself. "Not even in my dreams," Bryant said. "That was something that just happened. It's tough to explain. It's just one of those things. It really hasn't, set in for me. It's about the W. That's why I turned it on. It turned into something special. To sit here and say I grasped what happened, that would be lying." Even in a season where Bryant led the league in scoring with a staggering 35.4 points per game, his game against Toronto had left even the most seasoned NBA observers starstruck and in awe of what they had just witnessed. Teammates and staff alike were asking Bryant to autograph copies of the box score after the game. Lakers public address announcer Lawrence Tanter was telling fans to save their ticket stubs, and Lakers owner Jerry Buss described the game as like watching a miracle unfold. But it was perhaps Lakers coach Phil Jackson, who'd spent nearly a decade coaching Michael Jordan, that put the performance in its proper perspective. "That was something to behold," Jackson said. "It was another level. I've seen some remarkable games, but I've never seen one like that before." This coming from the coach who nearly pulled Bryant from the game with the score out of reach after he'd scored 77 points, just 1 point shy of Chamberlain's 78-point mark set in 1961. Jackson reconsidered after discussing it with Lakers assistant coach Frank Hamblin, who told him there would be a riot. When Bryant scored his final 2 points on a pair of free throws with 43.4 seconds remaining, the chance of MVP from the 18,997 fans at Staples Center couldn't have been more fitting. Bryant finished the second half scoring 55 of his 81 points, the second highest point total in a half in NBA history, behind Chamberlain's 59-point second half in his 100-point game. With his team trailing by 18 points in the third quarter, Bryant simply exploded, scoring 27 points in the third and 28 in the fourth. He accounted for all but 18 of the Lakers' points in the second half and single-handedly put the game away. Bryant was hitting shots from all over the court, nailing contested jumper after contested jumper, leaving the Raptors without answers. As Toronto forward Chris Bosh put it, "We were just watching him shoot." The Raptors weren't the only ones watching. As Bryant would later note, his 81-point game was the first and only professional game his grandmother had ever seen him play live. She picked the right one too, and since that point, 14 years later, only Devin Booker has gotten within striking distance of this 81-point total when he poured in 70 points against the Celtics in March of 2017. It could be argued that this is the most historic performance of all time, but as you will see with number 1 on the list, it's hard to argue with the decision. The Black Mamba would go on to have a Hall of Fame career and would be in consideration as one of the all-time greats of the game. He would become a 5-time NBA champion, a 2-time Finals MVP, NBA MVP, an 18-time All-Star, a 15-time All-NBA selection, 12-time All-Defensive Team selection, as well as becoming a 2-time scoring champion of the league, and having both his number 8 and 24 jersey retired by the Lakers in 2017. Tragically, on the 26th of January 2020, Kobe and his daughter Gianna, along with 7 others, perished in a helicopter crash which was traveling to a basketball game at Bryant's Mamba Academy. He was posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame for 2020. Rest in peace, Kobe, Gianna, and the 7 others on the helicopter as well. He may be gone, but his legacy lives on, and this 81-point historic performance will never be forgotten. And finally, number 1. Wilt Chamberlain 1962 regular season. On March 2nd, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain set the NBA single-game scoring record by tallying 100 points for the Philadelphia Warriors in a 169-147 victory over the New York Knicks. Not 98 points, not 102, but a nice round 100. an imposing record set by our most imposing player. Chamberlain was a gargantuan force in the NBA, a player of Bunyan-esque stature who seemed to overshadow all around him. He was a dominant offensive force, unstoppable on his way to the basket, yet he was also a fine all-around athlete who took pride in developing the all-around skills to compete with players half a foot shorter. He certainly was unstoppable that night in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where the Warriors played a few of their home games in order to attract additional fans. With New York's starting center Phil Jordan sidelined by the flu, Chamberlain could not be contained by Darrell Imhoff and Cleveland Buckner. He scored 23 points in the first quarter and had 41 by halftime. He would go on to tally 28 in the third when the fans began to chant, "Give it to Wilt." That's exactly what the Warriors did, feeding Chamberlain at every opportunity in the fourth quarter. The Knicks tried fouling other Philadelphia players to keep the ball away from Chamberlain, but the Warriors countered by committing fouls of their own to get the ball back. Finally, Chamberlain took a pass from Joe Rucklick and hit a short shot with 46 seconds left to give him 100 points. Fans raced onto the court and play was halted as Chamberlain went to the locker room, where PR man Harvey Pollock scrawled 100 on a piece of paper and had Chamberlain hold it up for photographers in what would become an iconic photo in NBA history and an internet meme for the modern generation. In obliterating his previous NBA scoring record of 78 points set less than 3 months earlier, Chamberlain shot 36 for 63 from the field and 28 of 32 from the foul line, a remarkable feat for a man whose career three-throw percentage was a lowly 51% from the line. He also piled in 25 rebounds, which is basically what he averaged that season. The craziest part about this game was that he tried to come out of the game before he got 100 points, said Al Attles, who was Chamberlain's teammate and the longest standing member of the Warriors organization. The coach wouldn't listen to him. Nobody would listen to him. We said we wanted to get him the ball, and he would say, "I'll get mine, don't worry about me." Here is a snippet of a press conference with Attles discussing Wilt's 100-point night.
I was probably told you everything that happened. There's two things that I talk about when I talk about that game that are most important. Number one, we won the game, contrary to popular belief of a lot of people. And the other thing is, Wilt tried to come out of the game before he got to 100 points because the game was won, and many people say, well, he was trying to rub it in. He was not trying to rub it in. But Frank McGuire had made a pact with Wilt that we didn't know about. Maybe Tom knew about it. And he told Wilt he was going to average 50 points that year, which he did. And we didn't know about it. And then he also acted like he didn't know Wilt when Wilt was trying to come out of the game. He kept looking away from him. And Wilt was tired and wanted to come out of the game because, I don't know if you remember this, Tom, but they didn't get rooms for us back then. And,
no.
You know, and it wasn't like the NBA is today. So we were just kind of walking around aimlessly in
there was a hallway in the back.
And a hallway in the back.
Hallway in the back.
And Wilt was actually
water fountains
playing. Went to a Penny Arcade and he was shooting the gun. And he told me afterwards. He said that he was really hot. He said that he was, mowing everything down. And I told him, yeah, but you mowed a lot of things down in the game tonight too. But he actually tried to come out of the game, and he was not trying to rub it in. So.
Chamberlain was already in the middle of an historic season in 1962, where he would go on to average a remarkable 50.4 points per game. After the game, Chamberlain didn't seem to take a whole lot of pride in his new record. When he scored 100 points, he was probably the least excited about it, Attles said. We were in the locker room going crazy, and he said, "I never thought I would take 63 shots, but we all said to him, 'Wilt, you scored 100 points.'" Attles, the Warriors' second leading scorer that night with 17 points, on a perfect 8 for 8 from the field and 1 for 1 from the line, has for many years boasted about what happened that night. I'll never forget the night me and Wilt combined for 117 points. Wilt the Stilt would dominate his 15 years in the NBA and finish with career averages of 30.1 points, 22.9 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game, to go along with being a 4-time MVP, 13-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champion, a Finals MVP, be named to the All-NBA team on 10 occasions, and win the scoring title 7 times and the rebounding title 11 times. The list goes on. His number 13 jersey would go on to be retired by the Lakers, the Sixers, and the Warriors. This performance was truly historic, and only Kobe has ever come within sniff of the record since it was established 58 years ago. A remarkable player, and although it might be contentious and there may be debates about who Wilt's opposition was and the era he was playing in, there is no doubt in my eyes that this is the number one single game performance of all time. And there you have it, guys, the top 5 NBA single game performances of all time. I did a lot of research into this video. There were a lot of notable snubs, but at the end of the day, I'm very happy with the list that I put together. Let me know what you guys think of this list and which performances you would have added into the mix, and also comment your top 5 single game performances in NBA history in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, it helps a lot. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe so that you never miss a video that I post. That's all we have time for in this video, and until next time, it's your boy Danko from Hoops Insight saying peace.